Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 217 based on novel. So let's start. The essence of the 34 forces of destruction is right in front of you. Luo Feng observed carefully. The biggest purpose of coming to the abyss of destruction was to accumulate insights on the destruction path. Previously, he personally felt the encirclement of the world envoys, pondering the mysteries of destructive forces himself. But his own speculations were not necessarily perfect. Unlike now, all mysteries are fully displayed before his eyes. Although he has accumulated enough mysteries of the destruction path to reach the threshold of creating the primordial blade path, the deeper the accumulation, the smoother the path to create that primordial blade path. These 34 light clusters, each contains all the mysteries of one type of destructive force. Luo Feng was somewhat surprised. Moreover, they include the destructive forces from layers 1 to 19 of the Abyss of Destruction. Could the entire Abyss of Destruction consist of exactly 34 layers? Luo Feng couldn't help but speculate, but he didn't care too much about it. His thoughts were more focused on these mysteries. Luo Feng sat cross-legged, patiently observing and comprehending. In the blink of an eye, 30 eras passed, and Luo Feng had grasped all those destructive mysteries in his heart. These veins. Luo Feng noticed the glow of 34 light clusters intersecting, forming veins throughout the mountain of destruction. These veins integrate the mysteries of 34 types of destructive forces, perfectly unified. At this moment, Luo Feng thought of the primordial's life core. The life core is formed by one mystery as the main and multiple mysteries as the complementary ones, forming a complete whole. Is this more like a life core path in the direction of destruction? Luo Feng vaguely sensed, with destruction as the main, compatible with multiple mysteries in the life core. Following the guidance of the mountain of destruction, theoretically one can explore 34 types of destructive forces and perfectly integrate them into a whole. Of course, this is the most perfect situation. This path is only suitable for ancestors, not for us cultivator lords. Luo Feng understood this point. Ancestors are born with life cores in their bodies, which are naturally nurtured by the infinite primordial space, allowing them to contain multiple mysteries. Containing dozens of mysteries is very common. But cultivator lords need to comprehend by themselves. To understand a primordial level Tao is already a rare achievement. Indeed. Luo Feng pondered, mysterious places can nurture some highest level powers. But no matter how special the mysterious place is, it cannot nurture a primordial level Tao. Like the mysterious place, Fire Prison Wall, 12 types of the highest level flame power have been discovered. The Blood Crane territory also contains 3 types, blood power, undying power, and shadow power. Without a doubt. All mysterious places, the maximum nurtured power is the highest level. But Tao is a collection of rules. It requires one's own insight and pioneering. The endless primordial space originally did not have primordial level Tao, it was only after the pioneers developed it that Tao existed. While various powers exist innately. From this perspective, ancestors and some mysterious places are relatively compatible, as they are born with life cores. Some are even born as ancestors. Luo Feng thought, but we cultivators are not so compatible. We cultivators don't have life cores. We must start from nothing and create our own paths. But once a Tao is developed, one immediately becomes the highest level life form, immortal and undying. If one masters 2 primordial level Taos, one immediately rises to the pinnacle of the endless primordial. Luo Feng still felt that the cultivator lords were stronger. Cultivators rise from the lowest level, step by step to the pinnacle. The lowest level cultivators are insignificant in front of low-level primordial life, unable to withstand even a breath. The highest level cultivators, however, have the ability to overpower all ancestors. Even if the power of Starlight and Shoju is equivalent. Shoju is known for destruction. But Starlight excels in many areas, observing the past, present, and future. The control of time and space. Combining multiple layers, Starlight is much better than Shoju. The fact that the mountain of destruction can lead me inside indicates that I, a cultivator lord, am also suitable to be its master. Luo Feng stood up smiling, bypassed the sculptures, and thoroughly explored the area around the mountain of destruction. As long as sufficient distance is maintained from those 7 sculptures, it won't trigger combat. This mountain of destruction nurtures quite a lot of weapons. Luo Feng bypassed those sculptures, gradually approaching the mountain of destruction, and the weapons embedded on the mountain became more apparent, and the scenery on the mountain became clearer, with some twisted large trees faintly visible. Finally, Luo Feng arrived in front of the mountain body of the mountain of destruction. At his current level, he couldn't discern any gaps in the material of the mountain rock. Its surface bears lines containing a hint of destructive flavor, and naturally condenses some black mist. As an immortal and undying being, Luo Feng naturally dared to attempt everything. Buzz! Luo Feng extended his hand and touched the rock of the mountain of destruction. Buzz! At the instant of touch, an endless cold killing intent instantly spread throughout Luo Feng's body, rushing into his spiritual consciousness. However, Luo Feng's spiritual will was also cultivated to an extremely strong level. Even when the Silent Extinction Ancestor and others joined forces for a soul attack, they couldn't shatter Luo Feng. At this moment, this cold killing intent brought pressure to Luo Feng's spiritual will, but he completely withstood it. At that moment, Luo Feng felt many emotions of killing, hatred, with countless slaughter scenes appearing in his mind. Those were historical scenes of slaughter, destruction that occurred in the endless primordial space, all filled with incredibly intense emotions. Love, hate, passion, enmity. Even the innate primordials are filled with intense emotions. Of course, the richest of these emotions most often come from the creatures of the source worlds. Each source world can give rise to so many lives. And most of these lives are short-lived, experiencing so many tribulations. Countless among them have endured the repeated disasters brought upon by the innate primordials. Everything I have was destroyed by these innate primordials. Kill, kill, kill. A cultivator frantically charged toward a wisp of breath descending from a world-level primordial life. For a world-level primordial life, a mere wisp of breath descending constitutes a catastrophe that countless creatures in a source world find hard to resist. Even the strongest among them amount to nothing more than playthings for the world-level primordials. To dare to raise a blade against me, you're quite brave indeed. Thereafter, the twisted figure formed by that wisp of breath devoured the cultivator. Why can't we resist? Why can we only await death? Even as the cultivator died, he was filled with unwillingness. And there were beloved friends and family embracing each other, welcoming the arrival of the catastrophe together. Indescribable love and reluctance. Really reluctant to let go. But what else can they do? At this moment, overwhelming icy killing intent and countless scenes surged into Luo Feng's memory. 3 parts were the killing intent of the innate primordials, and 7 parts were the killing intent of countless source world cultivators. These cultivators bore too much hatred, resenting the vast difference in power, resenting their own impotence. They cursed the injustice of the great Tao. I am also a cultivator. I consider myself strong enough, yet those world-level primordials approach me only to die, and most of those ancestors flee in disarray. But what can I do? Luo Feng's spiritual will can withstand the impact of the mountain of destruction's killing intent, but these intense scenes filled with hatred somewhat stimulated him. Although he had previously witnessed the miserable states of many source worlds from the non-cultivated territory, merely watching and experiencing it firsthand are worlds apart. Now feeling those overpoweringly intense emotions as though living through those scenes himself, it greatly impacted him as a lord. Luo Feng's eyes couldn't hide the killing intent. The innate primordial camp, the Ice Peak camp, including many weaker forces, as long as they are among the innate primordials of world-level primordials and some weaker ancestors, the source world origin is the best food for their life core growth. The 8 lords who aim to protect all source worlds will face far greater resistance than now. Luo Feng understood this point. At that time, not only would they be unable to protect other source worlds, but even the current 3,600 world groups might be implicated. Just like what Elder Brother said, our cultivator camp isn't strong enough. Luo Feng touched the mountain of destruction's body, the killing intent and memory seems gradually dissipating, no longer impacting his heart. However, once a cultivator lord experiences it, he will never forget. Touching the mountain of destruction this time, personally experiencing that endless killing intent, hatred, and countless scenes, all of it Luo Feng naturally kept in his heart. This mountain of destruction? As the shock dissipated, Luo Feng touched the mountain's body and sensed new information. On this mountain of destruction, precious destruction fruits will condense. These destruction fruits can promote the growth of ancestor life cores in the destruction direction. Each time a sculpture is defeated, one fruit is obtained. The more sculptures defeated, the more destruction fruits gained. Destruction fruits can not only be consumed to promote life core growth but can also be used to exchange for treasures nurtured by the mountain of destruction. According to the sensed information, he was eligible to take one destruction fruit, or he could choose not to take a fruit and exchange it for a treasure. One fruit, used to exchange for a treasure, any one of them is more precious than the sky-splitting saber. All are among the finest from the vast weapons and treasures nurtured by the mountain of destruction, including battle armor and others. One fruit can select one item from 3,000 treasures. This battle armor closely resembles Carfu's. Luo Feng found a piece of battle armor among the sensed treasure information. Carfu should be one of the three who came to the mountain of destruction. He didn't consume a fruit but chose to exchange it for this battle armor. Luo Feng pondered. He doesn't have a life core. Even if he takes away a destruction fruit, it would only be sold to other strong beings. From a strength perspective, Luo Feng still planned to exchange it for a suitable treasure. No rush, the more sculptures defeated, the more destruction fruits there are, the better treasures can be exchanged for. Luo Feng could feel that the abyss of destruction was guiding, trying to cultivate a truly supreme existence in the direction of destruction. Whether it's the veins displayed by the mountain of destruction or the destruction fruits, all guide the growth of life cores in the direction of destruction. Based on clues, it should be me, Carfu, and Shoju who came to the mountain of destruction. Luo Feng speculated, which he considered most likely. Shoju only mastered 2 highest level powers, yet her destructive power far surpassed the Endless Snake Ancestor and Ice Peak Ancestor, now occupying the 27th layer of the Abyss of Destruction. Luo Feng had reason to suspect that Shoju had been here and might have even consumed a destruction fruit. Otherwise, how could her combination of 2 powers be so perfect? This mountain of destruction is indeed a great opportunity. But the help it offers is even greater for ancestors. For Luo Feng, 1 can comprehend the mysteries of destruction, 2 can accumulate destruction fruits to exchange for sufficiently powerful weapons and treasures. 3. These 7 sculptures also make excellent opponents. If completely defeated, there is even hope to wield this highest-level mysterious land. The first sculpture already has the strength of the top 20 of the endless primordial space. Let's see the strength of this second sculpture. Luo Feng, after touring the mountain of destruction and finding no other gains, actively approached the 7 sculptures in the distance again. As he got closer to the 7 sculptures, the bird sculpture still did not move, but the 9-headed giant snake sculpture of the second kind slowly awakened. As the 9-headed giant snake awakened, its body rapidly enlarged, and in barely a moment, its massive form extended over the entire land where the mountain of destruction resided, its serpentine body coiling over the ground more than a full circle, 9 heads staring at Luo Feng. The sheer formless dominance surpassed the infinite snake ancestor. Luo Feng frowned slightly. The second sculpture is already this strong? Did Carfu only defeat 1 sculpture? At this moment, Luo Feng realized the 7 trials were much harder than he had previously anticipated. The 9-headed giant snake, coiling around the entire expanse of the mountain of destruction, observed Luo Feng. What a gigantic form! Luo Feng was secretly amazed. Size isn't always better. The infinite snake ancestor can enlarge its body to rival a world cluster, but it doesn't have destructive power at that size. Energy reserves are finite. Every lord or ancestor has an optimal size for combat. Deliberately enlarging can actually make them weaker. Its energy reserve is much stronger than the infinite snake ancestor. Luo Feng could sense it. Boom! Without any warning, it was as if the whole world collided with Luo Feng, the terrifying momentum causing him to suddenly fly backward, plowing long furrows in the ground. Luo Feng's protective energy layer vibrated and distorted, and his blood-red robe showed some cracks. Such power! This is the most powerful opponent I've encountered so far. Luo Feng was startled, realizing he was struck by the serpent's body. Boom! Unable to perceive it, unable to resist it, Luo Feng was hit again. The serpent's tail whipped onto Luo Feng, with a force equal to 20 or 30 ordinary ancestors' combined strike, sending Luo Feng flying. Boom! 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 On the vast lands at the foot of the Mountain of Destruction, the nine-headed serpent, though huge, kept hitting Luo Feng repeatedly. He had no time to defend, no time to dodge. Yet Luo Feng's defenses were strong. The terrifying force of the serpent was weakened after passing through the protective energy layer and the blood-red robe, unable to harm Luo Feng. Interesting. Luo Feng allowed himself to be hit, remaining unhurried. With his current strength, finding a close match in the entire endless primordial space was incredibly rare. Especially with the 7 sculptures, once he defeated one, the next challenge would be even stronger. Thus, Luo Feng cherished this 9-headed serpent as an opponent. He wasn't in a rush. He would rather spend more time understanding this 9-headed serpent thoroughly before defeating it with full strength. Huff. After withstanding hundreds of strikes, Luo Feng was still unscathed. Suddenly, Luo Feng felt the surrounding space change, and he found himself inside the body of the 9-headed serpent. The body began to shrink, time and space began collapsing, trying to crush Luo Feng. This 9-headed serpent's methods are very similar to those of the infinite Great Snake clan. Luo Feng pondered, it's practically the perfect form of the infinite Great Snake clan. During the war between the two great camps, Luo Feng had seen multiple ancestor-level infinite great snakes, and he was also very familiar with the largest clan of the innate primordial camp. According to intelligence, the infinite great snake clan's strength lies in their ability to merge with each other. For instance, 3 world-level primordial perfect infinite great snakes can merge into a 3-headed giant snake. At higher primordial levels, due to the vast numbers, there were instances where 9 infinite great snakes merged into a 9-headed giant snake, which is the clan's fusion limit. What stands before me is a 9-headed giant snake. Moreover, its body's secret patterns are more perfect than those of ancestor-level infinite great snakes. Its aura is even stronger than the infinite snake ancestor. It's a more perfect version of the infinite great snake than the infinite snake ancestor. Luo Feng surmised. Each of the 7 sculptures in the Mountain of Destruction has its origin. Luo Feng thought, does each sculpture have a prototype? The 3rd sculpture is similar to the Hermit. The 4th sculpture is a massive cube formed by 125 smaller cubes, bearing great similarity to the Demon Ruins. The 5th sculpture is a black star. Some ancestors have a star shape, and even some mysterious places have a star shape. Especially the 7th sculpture, it's always changing. Luo Feng thought, the 7th sculpture harbors all who control the destruction world, apart from the challenger, like the infinite ancestor at the deeper level of Kafue. It's known that the infinite ancestor surpassing Kafue is a recent event. Undoubtedly, the 7th sculpture changes according to external circumstances. The Mountain of Destruction absorbs the killing intent, hatred, and intense emotions within the endless primordial space. Luo Feng had previously touched the Mountain of Destruction's surface and had been greatly impacted. The Abyss of Destruction, this mysterious land, made Luo Feng increasingly curious. Crack, crack, crack tilde tilde tilde. The 9-headed serpent used its body as a cage, like a world of cages, to bind and crush Luo Feng. However, Luo Feng's strong physical body withstood all crushing attempts. Its force is strong, but it seems somewhat clumsy. Luo Feng noticed this. Whether the 1st or the 2nd sculpture, their power is terrifying. But in terms of combat techniques, they seem rather clumsy and direct. No need to continue. Luo Feng realized that the 9-headed giant snake's clumsy techniques no longer warranted him holding back. Instantly drawing his blade, an incomparably dazzling blade light sliced through, cutting through all obstacles, splitting the world in 2. Naturally, it also severed part of the serpent's body. Slash! Luo Feng stood his ground, showing no mercy. Beam after beam of blade light emerged, each blade light possessing the terrifying power of all things can be cut, slicing the enormous, twisting body into dozens of pieces. However, the dozens of snake parts quickly remerged, with minimal energy loss. The 9-headed giant snake instantly vanished, hiding deep within the void. 10 directions extinction. Luo Feng sheathed his blade, then stretched out both hands. Within him, 10 billion and 80 million origins burned through 5% of the energy reserve in an instant, releasing an endless surge of explosive energy. Under Luo Feng's spiritual will, these energies transformed into 10 incredibly fierce blade lights, each following through the 10 fingers of Luo Feng. The 10 blade lights crisscrossed the endless void, forming a 10 directions blade array, completely sealing off everything within the area where the mountain of destruction was located. The surrounding world, all within the range of the 10 directions blade array. All things can be cut. Extinguish all. This is Luo Feng's insight into the 34 mysterious forces of destruction within the mountain of destruction, perceiving how these destructive forces intertwine, further advancing his 5 directions blade array to the perfected 10 directions blade array. Allowing 5% of the energy reserve to be sustained within the 10 directions blade array, Luo Feng's current control over energy surpassed his strength when he first became a lord. Back then, he could only cause explosive, origin great destruction, but now he perfectly controlled and condensed power into blade light without any dispersal. Buzz. Under the slaughter of the 10 directions blade array, a dense black mist circulated on the surface of the mountain of destruction, resisting all slaughter. Even the 6 sculptures remained unmoved, unharmed under the blade array. Only the 9-headed serpent could not hide, even the void was annihilated, and its massive winding body could not resist the terrifying blade light, shattering into thousands of pieces. Although it continuously reformed as one, the continuous grinding of the blade array finally reached its core. Hua! The 9-headed giant snake instantly dissipated, reforming into a sculpture at its original position. Luo Feng stretched out his hand, and the vast blade light constituting the 10 directions blade array flew back into his body. The energy consumption of the 10 directions blade array was not great, and about 80 to 90% of the energy returned. Finally defeated the second sculpture. Luo Feng looked at the sculpture of the 9-headed giant snake and secretly sighed. Once he unleashed his power, he managed to forcibly defeat this 9-headed giant snake head-on. But Luo Feng clearly understood. Even if Starlight took action, it might not necessarily shred this 9-headed giant snake. Although the 9-headed giant snake is foolish, its power is immense, comparable to the combined force of 20 or 30 ancestors. Its body is extremely resilient. Aside from me, perhaps only Shoju could tear its body apart, Luo Feng thought. Just the second sculpture was already so formidable. It forced me to give my all. Luo Feng looked toward the third sculpture, which resembled the hermit figure, and immediately walked over. As he approached a certain range, the third sculpture, the fox sculpture, began to flow slowly from its previous solidified state, and eyes formed on the surface of this fog to observe Luo Feng. It glanced at Luo Feng. Luo Feng then realized the world had changed. Surrounded by white mist, the mist flowed around and over Luo Feng's body. Luo Feng's expression changed slightly as he realized every movement was incredibly strenuous, even walking was extremely hard. Fog domain? And it's stronger than the domain of the primordial beast ancestor? Luo Feng was shocked. The primordial beast ancestor was the strongest ancestor within the domain of the endless primordial space, yet the domain suppression of the white mist formed by the third sculpture was even stronger. Every move Luo Feng made was immensely difficult. Cut. Luo Feng couldn't wield his blade, so the 10,800,000,000 origins within him burned, sending dazzling blade light flying from his body. These blade lights barely traveled a short distance through the fog before being completely worn down. The energy from the worn-down blade light was absorbed by the white mist, which remained vast, and its energy did not weaken in the slightest. Boom tilde 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 tilde. Under the cover of the white mist, Luo Feng attacked repeatedly, even using some newly devised techniques. but the white mist was incredibly resilient, easily wearing down Luo Feng's blade light. Even within this fog domain, the 10 directions blade array could not be set up. The blade light would be eroded in a short time. Can't even fight. Luo Feng felt helpless. He considered his techniques to be extremely powerful, but they simply couldn't dent the white mist, and this was only the third sculpture. Hua 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 tilde 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 tilde. The endless mist suddenly began to contract. Luo Feng could see with the naked eye that the mist's density quickly increased, and its constraint and suppression on him surged. What? Luo Feng was surprised. Earlier he could at least move and wield his blade. But gradually, Luo Feng found moving difficult and was unable to wield the blade. Tilde tilde tilde. The increasingly dense white mist wrapped around Luo Feng like liquid. Its scope grew smaller and the constraint and pressure intensified. Luo Feng was unable to move. The white mist had shrunk into a stream, twisting around and strangling Luo Feng. Can't move at all. Luo Feng felt the restraint power was terrifying. Weaker bodies would be shredded to pieces, but his own body was inherently resilient, and along with the shadow power and undying power from the blood crane territory, he was barely resisting the terrible erosion and strangulation. No other techniques available. Completely restrained and unable to move, Luo Feng was left with no choice. He didn't expect that just the third sculpture would force him into this predicament, unable to use any blade techniques against this hermit sculpture. With a thought, Luo Feng's physical body transformed into energy, merging with the 10,800,000,000 origins, which shone like a cluster of brilliant stars, forming a formation. With mastery of the highest level of power of breaking and increased accumulation in the destruction path, the current origin Great Destruction formation was naturally optimized, and its self-detonating prowess improved by roughly 20% compared to during the camp wars. Boom! The formation formed by the 10,800,000,000 origins instantly transformed into energy that annihilated everything. When pure energy breaches a certain limit, it creates a special reaction, causing all space-time to obliterate, and all matter to extinguish. The energy from this obliteration merges with the self-detonating energy, making the impact more terrifying. Instinctively, the eyes of the white mist stream that restrained Luo Feng showed a trace of astonishment. Bang! Too close. It completely restrained Luo Feng, being intimately close. To pursue power, it kept shrinking. This resulted in it bearing the most terrifying impact at the closest proximity. Despite its resilience, it was torn apart, its energy core was struck, and at the moment of impact, this white mist stream naturally annihilated. Boom! The aftermath of the explosion swept across the land of the Mountain of Destruction. The energy post-explosion, guided by an invisible will, gathered back, coalescing into the image of Luo Feng in black robes. Leveraging the connection with the mysterious land's blood crane territory, new blood crane territory energy continuously transmitted over, forming new scarlet robes on his body. Did I win? Luo Feng looked at the distant third sculpture forming, a bit stunned. Winning against the third sculpture, he felt it was somewhat unfair. Every bit of energy Luo Feng possessed contained potent spirituality and his spiritual will. Even when unleashing the origin Great Destruction, he could still reclaim 20% of his energy reserve. I was lucky to win this time. Luo Feng, clad in a blood-red robe, reflected on the previous battle and had to admit that the third sculpture had comprehensively surpassed his current self. According to the ancestors of the endless primordial space, reaching such a level, they would already be undying and immortal. No matter how much he utilized the origin Great Destruction, it posed no threat. It's because the 7 sculptures were a test, they all had the energy core as a weakness, giving him the slim chance of victory. My blade technique still cannot match the power of origin Great Destruction, there's a significant difference. Luo Feng thought. With his blade technique, Luo Feng was on the same level as Starlight and Shoju. But a move of the origin Great Destruction's level could heavily injure the 3 giant god emperors and over 20 ancestors. This move caused chaos in the innate primordial camp's army, ultimately deciding to cease fighting. This time, Luo Feng again relied on this move to narrowly defeat the third sculpture. Sadly, once such a move is seen, it won't foolishly work again. Sigh? Luo Feng took a step forward, approaching the mountain of destruction, and reached out to touch it once more. This time the touch again underwent hatred, killing intent, and numerous scenarios impacting his soul, which made Luo Feng's expression colder. After enduring the impact, he sensed the destruction fruit, treasures, and other information. Now I can obtain 3 destruction fruits and can exchange them for other treasures. Treasures exchanged for 3 destruction fruits, are such treasures even exchangeable? Luo Feng was quite surprised. 1 destruction fruit can make a life core evolve in a destruction direction to a certain extent, or it can be exchanged for a treasure on the level of Kafou's battle armor. Treasures exchanged for 3 destruction fruits undergo a qualitative change. Enough to excite any ancestor or lord. Of the treasures exchangeable, there are 6 in total, choose any one of them. A seed, a stone, a drop of water, a cluster of flame, a blob of golden liquid, a ray of colored light. These 6 treasures are mysterious lands yet to grow, considered in their embryonic form. The reason they haven't matured is that they each only nurture one type of highest level power. That seed, in Luo Feng's perception, had an endless intense vitality and toughness. It contained a kind of supreme life power. That stone was extremely stable and immovable. It contained some supreme defensive power. The latter 4 corresponded to water, fire, matter, and light types of highest level power. These 6 treasures, though undergoing gestation in the endless primordial space, haven't grown into true mysterious lands. But in their most primitive form, they can be refined and carried around. Luo Feng understood this from the sensed information. A formed mysterious land, even a relatively ordinary one like the Blood Crane territory, is enormous. It took Luo Feng 10 eras to move it from its original position to beside the origin continent origin world. Some particularly massive ones cannot be moved. This embryonic form mysterious land, however, can be carried around with no burden. A formed mysterious land, even if refined and controlled, only all its power can be utilized within its boundaries. Once outside, only partial strength can be borrowed from afar, increasing one's power by 30% at best. But this embryonic form, since it can merge into the body and be carried around, allows full power utilization. Even if only nurturing one type of highest level power, once all power can be borrowed, it is still greatly beneficial to oneself. Because it's borrowed. There isn't deep research into this power, unlike those ancestors who delve into a type of supreme power for their whole lives. It is estimated that 70 or 60% of the power can be exerted. If I were to choose, I would definitely pick the one that aligns with life and destruction more closely. My defensive ability is already strong enough, so I definitely prefer the one strong in offensive capabilities. The latter 3 treasures would all be helpful to me. The Supreme Flame, paired with life and destruction, will surely enhance destructive power. The golden liquid, flowing like a sharp blade, seems like a natural weapon. It contains a kind of highest level matter power, which is also beneficial to me. The key is that in terms of enlightenment, beyond life and destruction, my third best area is the Tao of matter. Of course, comprehending the Tao of matter is hundreds of millions of times more challenging than life and destruction. The ray of colored light contains some light power. Once mastered, I will possess the ubiquitous ability, the blade technique will be omnipresent, and it should have the same certain hit ability as Ming Huang. The blade power could also increase. In terms of power enhancement, the ray of colored light should help the most. But from a long-term perspective, from the angle of enlightenment, the golden liquid suits better. Luo Feng thought for a moment. No rush, once I create the primordial blade path, perhaps I can try to defeat the 4th sculpture. By then, obtaining another destruction fruit should allow for better treasures. Luo Feng contemplated for a while, then looked toward the 4th sculpture. It was a giant cube composed of 125 smaller cubes. It should be much stronger than the 3rd sculpture. I expect I would lose quite badly. Luo Feng predicted, but still walked towards these sculptures. While researching treasure information, his body had already returned to the pinnacle state. This video will end here.